Janelle Parker adjusted her glasses as she sat inside the bustling Atlanta cafe, sipping her latte while scrolling through her tablet. She was preparing for her big presentation at work when the door opened, and a tall man walked in. He had a confident but calm presence, dark suit, broad shoulders, neatly trimmed beard. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on the only empty chair across from her. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" he asked, voice deep but polite. She looked up, momentarily caught off guard by his warm smile. "No, you can sit." He introduced himself. "I'm Francis Reed." Janelle. Conversation flowed easily. They discovered they both worked in the city. Francis, an architect with a vision for sustainable housing, Janelle, a tech consultant leading AI projects. Atlanta was loud outside, but inside that cafe, it felt like their world had slowed. Before leaving, Francis asked, "Can I see you again?" "Maybe dinner." Janelle hesitated, then nodded. "Dinner sounds nice." Both walked away smiling, unaware this simple encounter would shape the course of their lives. Francis stood outside the restaurant, adjusting his tie nervously. He wasn't usually the nervous type, but something about Janelle made him want everything to go right. When she arrived, dressed in a simple emerald dress that hugged her curves gracefully, his words almost stumbled. "You look breathtaking," he managed. Janelle blushed lightly. "Thank you, Francis. You clean up well yourself." They were seated near the window of the upscale restaurant, overlooking Atlanta's city lights. Conversation came easy, laughter filling the pauses between courses. Francis shared stories of his late father, who taught him discipline and humility, while Janelle spoke of her younger brother, who looked up to her like a second mom. At one point, Francis leaned forward. "You know, I wasn't sure if you'd actually come tonight." Janelle raised a brow. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because you strike me as someone who doesn't give her time easily. And I respect that." She smiled, touched by his observation. "You're right. I don't. But something told me this dinner was worth it." By dessert, Francis already knew he wanted to see her again. As he walked her to her car, he asked softly, "Can I call you tomorrow?" Janelle grinned, unlocking her door. "I'll be waiting." They parted with a hug that lingered just long enough to hint at the promise of more. Over the next few weeks, Francis and Janelle found themselves spending more and more time together. What started as casual dinners quickly turned into late-night phone calls, weekend strolls at Piedmont Park, and spontaneous coffee meetups whenever their schedules allowed. One Saturday morning, Francis surprised her with tickets to an art exhibit. "I figured a tech mind like yours might appreciate a little creativity," he teased as they walked hand in hand through the gallery. Janelle tilted her head, studying a painting. "You're assuming I'm all logic and no soul." Francis chuckled. "Then prove me wrong." She turned to him, her eyes softening. "I think I already am." Their chemistry was undeniable. They challenged each other, balanced each other. Francis admired Janelle's ambition, the way she carried herself with quiet authority. Janelle loved Francis's calm presence and his ability to listen, really listen. One evening after dinner, they sat on Janelle's balcony overlooking the city. The air was cool, scented with magnolias from the streets below. "You ever think about the future?" Francis asked. "All the time," Janelle admitted. "But I've always been afraid of planning too much. Life doesn't follow blueprints." Francis smiled. "Funny. I'm an architect, and I live by blueprints. But I think with you, I'm okay with not knowing every detail." Her heart warmed at his words. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in years, Janelle felt she wasn't walking her journey alone. By the 4th month, their relationship had become something real, something both of them quietly admitted they wanted to last. But real love never comes without challenges. Janelle's work schedule tightened as her company pushed her to lead a high-stakes AI project. Long hours at the office meant late-night dinners, sometimes canceled plans, and Frances often waiting alone at restaurants with 2 glasses of water sweating on the table. One evening, when she finally arrived 2 hours late, Frances sighed. "Janelle, I get that your work is important, but I need to know where I fit in." She dropped her purse on the chair, guilt in her eyes. "I know, Frances. I'm trying. It's just, I worked so hard to get here, and I can't afford to slip." "I'm not asking you to give up your career," he said gently. "I just want to know you'll make space for us too." Her silence stretched across the table before she reached for his hand. "You're right. I need to do better. Please don't give up on me." Frances squeezed her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. But love takes effort on both sides." That night, Janelle realized she wasn't just building a career. She was building a partnership, and she'd have to fight for balance. As their relationship deepened, it was time to cross the bridge every couple eventually faces, meeting the families. Frances suggested it first. "How about Sunday dinner at my mom's place? She's been asking about you nonstop." Janelle hesitated, biting her lip. "Already? What if she doesn't like me?" He laughed softly. "Trust me, she will." That Sunday, Janelle found herself standing in front of a modest but warm suburban home. Mrs. Reed greeted her with open arms, enveloping her in a hug that felt surprisingly genuine. Over fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread, Janelle realized Frances's easy smile came straight from his mother. "So you're the woman making my son forget to call me," Mrs. Reed teased with a grin. Janelle blushed. "I promise I'll share him, ma'am." Later, when it was Janelle's turn to introduce Frances to her family, things weren't as smooth. Her younger brother, Terence, liked Frances immediately, but her mother, Mrs. Parker, seemed guarded. "An architect, huh?" she said, stirring her tea slowly. "That's nice. But do you have plans for stability? My daughter has worked hard, and I don't want her distracted." Frances met her eyes with calm respect. "I understand your concern, ma'am, but I can assure you, I'm not here to distract her. I'm here to build with her." That answer softened even Mrs. Parker's stern expression. Janelle squeezed his hand under the table, grateful. On the drive home, she whispered, "You handled that perfectly." He smiled. "Told you, I'm in this for real." "Beautiful. Let's take it all the way to the end." Spring came fast, and with it, a whirlwind at work. Janelle's company landed a government contract to deploy AI for traffic optimization in Atlanta. She was suddenly in rooms with commissioners, CTOs, and press. One of those rooms included Malik, a charismatic product manager who'd worked with her years prior. When Francis saw a photo on social media of Janelle and Malik laughing on a panel, his stomach tightened. He told himself it was nothing, but the feeling lingered. That night, as Janelle kicked off her heels, Francis spoke carefully. "I saw your panel today. Looked fun." "It was exhausting," she exhaled, dropping onto the couch. "But good exhausting. Atlanta's traffic analytics are finally going live." "And Malik?" She looked up, surprised. "What about him?" Francis shrugged. "You two seemed close." Janelle paused, then smirked. "You asking if there's something there?" "I'm asking if there's anything I should know." She sat beside him and took his hand. "Francis, if I laugh at someone's joke in public, it doesn't mean I'm choosing them in private. I choose you. Every day." He nodded, embarrassed. "I know. It's just, my dad used to say that a good thing requires good guarding. And my grandma used to say, guard it with honesty, not suspicion." She kissed his knuckles. "Ask me anything. I'll answer." He exhaled. "Okay, I trust you." "Good. Because tomorrow, I'd like you to meet our civic liaison. We're presenting at City Hall. I want you there." He smiled, tension dissolving. Say less. I got a suit that's never seen City Hall. They laughed. The storm never fully formed. Honesty blew it away before it began. The next storm didn't announce itself with jealousy. It arrived wearing exhaustion. A month later, Janelle slept at the office twice in a week. Francis woke alone to cold coffee and her scribbled notes. He tried to be patient, but the silence got loud. One Friday, he cooked dinner: garlic butter salmon, asparagus, lemon rice. He lit candles. He set plates. He waited. At 9:40 p.m., the door opened. Janelle stepped in, hair pinned up, eyes rimmed in fatigue. "Babe, I made dinner," he said softly. She looked at the table, then at him. "I'm sorry. The deployment hit a snag. Can you eat with me now?" She glanced at her buzzing phone. "Let me just." He pulled the chair back. "Or you could sit." Her phone buzzed again. She stared at it like it was a lifeline and a chain. Finally, she silenced it and sat. They ate in unusual quiet. Halfway through, Francis said, "I miss you." She put down her fork. "I'm right here. Your body is. I miss your mind. I miss your laugh. I miss when our couch was a couch and not a charging station." She rubbed her temples. "Francis, this is temporary. If I nail this, it sets up my team for years." "And us?" he asked gently. "What sets us up?" Her eyes glossed. "I don't know how to do both perfectly." "Neither do I. But we can't keep borrowing from us to pay for work." Tears threatened. She stood abruptly. "I need a shower." He nodded. "I'll be here." Steam filled the bathroom, and with it, her chest finally eased. Under the water, Janelle admitted a fear she'd never confessed. Success had been her protection. Her identity. If she slowed down, would she still be her? She came back out in an oversized t-shirt, hair in a towel. "Can we try a schedule?" she asked. "Protected time. Non-negotiable." He smiled with relief. "Every Tuesday and Friday night. Phones away. Even if it's just ramen. And Sundays," she added, "for your mom's church fish fries." He chuckled. "Amen." They cleaned the table side by side. The storm passed, leaving two people who were wet but still standing, together. Protected nights turned into rituals. Tuesday ramen on the balcony. Friday game night. Uno turned intense enough that Mrs. Parker eventually joined and accused them of stacking wild cards. Sundays at Mrs. Reed's, where Janelle helped in the kitchen and learned the family secret. You season with your wrist, not your spoon. In therapy, yes, therapy. Janelle booked it after the storm. They learned small tools. Reflective listening. Saying, when you, "I feel," without turning into prosecutors. They practiced it everywhere. Park walks, car rides, quiet mornings. One afternoon at Piedmont Park, Francis asked the question that had been humming in him. "What do you want in 5 years?" She squinted at the lake. "I want to build tools that fix real problems. Healthcare wait times, transit, access to services. I want Black girls in tech to see themselves in rooms I'm in." "And you?" He grinned. "I want to finish my green housing project on the south side. Affordable, solar-ready units with community gardens. I want nephews and nieces running around our backyard. I want my mother to fuss at me for not calling enough, and you to tell her, 'He's with me, blame me.'" Janelle laughed. "That last part is already happening." He took her hand. "I want to build with you. Literally. A life, a home, projects that outlast our names." Under the oaks, they sealed a new habit, choosing in public what they promised in private. Francis's firm won a bid to design a mixed-use community center in South Atlanta. After-school spaces, a clinic, and a rooftop garden. He fought to keep the design rooted in neighborhood needs, not developer glamour. He asked Janelle to sit on a volunteer advisory board for digital literacy. At the first community meeting, a teen raised her hand. "Are y'all just gonna build something fancy and leave?" "We've seen that before." Francis nodded. "That's fair. My firm's contract includes maintenance and a youth apprenticeship pipeline. We're not just dropping a building, we're hiring from here." Another elder asked, "What about access to services?" "Appointments take forever." Janelle leaned forward. "We're piloting a scheduling system that works by text. No apps needed. You text a time you're free. The system offers slots. If it confuses you, a real person calls back." The room relaxed. Afterward, they walked to the car, the summer heat still clinging to the air. "You were good in there," Francis said. "You were better," Janelle replied. "You spoke like the building already belonged to them." "It does," he said. "We're just the hands." Their hands found each other. It felt like purpose. Fall painted the city gold. On a crisp October evening, Francis told Janelle to wear sneakers and something warm. He drove her to the half-finished rooftop of the community center. Lanterns glowed along the edges, and a small speaker played Anita Baker softly. The skyline stretched like a promise. Janelle's breath caught. "Francis, what is this?" He took a shaky breath. "This is where I realized love isn't just feeling, it's design. Not rigid blueprints, but choices. Daily choices." He pulled a small box from his jacket. "Janelle Parker, will you make a life with me? Will you be my partner, my home, my forever project?" Her hands flew to her mouth. Tears gathered instantly. "You really brought me to your building to propose." "Our building," he corrected, smiling through his nerves. "Say yes." She launched into his arms. "Yes, yes, yes." He slipped the ring on, classic gold with a marquise diamond, elegant and strong. The city lights flickered like witnesses. They danced to Anita on cracked concrete, sneakers squeaking, laughter rising to the stars. Below them, the future hummed like a generator warming up. No good story crosses the proposal finish line without hurdles. Two, actually. First, Francis's firm lost a major investor when market jitters scared money away from community-forward projects. The community center would still finish, but his green housing plan stalled. He tried to act unbothered, but Janelle saw him lying awake, tracing invisible lines on the ceiling. "Talk to me," she whispered one night. He sighed. "It feels like trying to build a bridge and losing a beam midair." "Then we find another beam," she said. "What about modular sponsors? Solar companies, construction co-ops, people who want visibility and community credibility." He blinked. "Co-ops. Atlanta has them. And universities. You don't need one investor with a big check. You need 5 with big hearts." They built a pitch deck together, his drawings, her data. They presented to 3 local foundations and a state green grant committee. The first 2 said no. The third said, "Let's keep talking." Second hurdle, a whistleblower complaint hit Janelle's company, accusing a different division of bias in a school discipline algorithm. It wasn't her project, but the press didn't care. Headlines love guilt by association. Her mother called. "Baby, is your name in the news?" "I'm okay, Mom," she said, voice steady. "My team's clean. But I'm pushing for an external audit for the whole company." Mrs. Parker hesitated. "You sure you want to stir the pot?" "I want it right," Janelle replied. "If we mess up justice for kids, what are we doing?" She became a visible voice for ethical AI in Atlanta, speaking plainly, without jargon. Some colleagues cheered. A few grew cold. Francis held her hand at night and said, Win or lose, I see you. I see you too, she whispered. Always. Wedding planning began with joy and immediately bumped into opinions. Mrs. Reed wanted the church ceremony and a choir. Mrs. Parker wanted a proper reception with plated dinner and assigned seating, no foolishness. Janelle wanted an outdoor element. Frances wanted Nigerian jollof and macaroni. No one else agreed about the jollof, but he persisted. At a tasting, Mrs. Parker crossed her arms. People don't come to weddings to sweat, Janelle. Outdoor means heat. Evening garden, Janelle replied. String lights, fans, June breeze. Mrs. Reed beamed. And a choir can sing as you walk the garden path. Frances grinned. Compromise. Outdoor vows, indoor reception. Choir sings both places. And we'll serve both jollof and mac. Mrs. Parker eyed him. Boy, do you know how many chairs we have to rent for that? Yes, ma'am, he said sweetly. I already got quotes. She smirked despite herself. Smart mouth. I like you. Later, Terence pulled Frances aside. You good man. I am, Frances said. Your sister makes me better. Terence slapped his shoulder. Then we're good. A month before the wedding, Mrs. Reed fainted at choir rehearsal. The doctor called it stress and dehydration, but her blood pressure was high. Frances sat by her hospital bed, hands clasped, shoulders tense. Baby, she said weakly, don't wear that face. I'm going to see you get married if I have to crawl down that aisle. Frances smiled tightly. I need you healthy, Ma. Janelle arrived with a bag of low-sodium snacks and a hydration plan. Hi, Mama Reed. New rules. Water bottle glued to your hand. Salt shaker on vacation. Mrs. Reed eyed the snacks. These taste like cardboard. Like longevity, Janelle shot back, kissing her forehead. We need you dancing. Mrs. Parker visited too, bringing a silk scarf and a sharp look for the nurses. Excuse me, she said at the station, are we monitoring properly? Because this is mother of the groom. On the ride home, Janelle squeezed Frances's hand. We'll slow everything down. He nodded. We already did. I just seeing her like that. I know. They postponed nothing, but they simplified everything. Fewer meetings. More rest. More porch time with Mama Reed as she preached hydration like a sermon. June arrived warm and soft. The garden glowed under strings of lights that blinked like fireflies. The choir hummed an opening hymn. Frances stood at the altar in a tailored suit, Terence beside him as best man. He bounced lightly, nervous energy in his feet. The music swelled. Janelle stepped onto the path, veil floating, eyes locked on his. Mama Reed dabbed tears. Mrs. Parker held a fan, pretending her eyes were dry. At the arch of jasmine and eucalyptus, they faced each other and clasped hands. The officiant smiled. You've chosen your own vows. Frances cleared his throat. Janelle, I used to think love was a building I had to perfect before anyone could enter. With you, I learned it's a home we furnish over time. I vow to show up with tools and patience, to listen before I hammer, to plant gardens on our roofs and forgiveness in our floors. I vow to guard our joy with honesty. Janelle's voice trembled. Frances, I used to think I had to outrun life to be worth loving. With you, I learned to rest. I vow to choose us on purpose, to stack our calendar with care, to speak truth without weapons, to build technology that serves people the way you design spaces that hold them. I vow to be your safe place, even on my busiest days. Rings gleamed in the lights. By the power vested in me, the officiant grinned, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Kiss your partner. They kissed. The choir burst into joyous harmonies. Aunties shouted. A tiny cousin rang a bell. Somewhere, a neighbor yelled, "Whoop!" as if the city itself was celebrating. Inside the reception hall, the menu fused families: catfish, collards, jollof, mac, plantains, sweet tea like liquid memory. Speeches brought laughter and tears. Mrs. Parker admitted on the mic, "I didn't want an outdoor wedding. I was wrong. This is beautiful." Mrs. Reed added, "I knew from the salmon dinner night he burned. Boy can't cook, but the intention was there." Frances whispered into Janelle's ear on the dance floor, "I can cook." "You can love," she said. "I'll take that." Married life began with rhythms. Mornings where Frances brewed coffee, leaving a heart on the mug with milk foam that never quite looked like a heart but always made Janelle laugh. Evenings where she shut her laptop at 7:30, no matter what, and went for a walk with him. Weekends where they visited the community center to watch kids plant herbs and elders swap recipes. The Green Housing Project found its beams at last. A co-op pledged resources, a university architecture program offered student fellows, a small foundation signed on for 3 years. When the state grant committee finally said yes, conditional, but yes, Frances lifted Janelle off the kitchen floor and spun her until they were dizzy. "Who needs oxygen?" he laughed. "I do," she gasped, clinging to him. "But I'll risk it." At Janelle's job, the external audit validated her division and forced changes elsewhere. She was asked to speak at a national conference on ethical AI. On stage, she said, "We don't deploy code to people. We deploy code to communities. That means humility, feedback loops, and accountability to them." After the talk, a group of girls surrounded her. "I didn't know people like us were in rooms like that," one said. Janelle smiled. "We don't just enter rooms. We build new ones." That night, on their balcony, they watched heat lightning dance beyond the skyline. "We should name this place," Frances said, looking at the life they were furnishing. Plants on rails, photos of grandmothers on shelves, the air fryer no one admitted was essential. "Name our home," Janelle asked. "Hum." She thought. "Haven. Haven," he repeated. "Perfect." He touched her belly lightly, almost in prayer. She arched a brow. "Do you know something I don't?" "Just practicing," he said, grin wide. "For when we do." She kissed him. One day. One day came sooner than they planned. 3 months later, a pregnancy test sat quietly on the bathroom sink like a secret. Janelle stared at it. "Frances." He rushed in, eyes scanning her face, then the test. His mouth fell open. "For real. For real." They laughed, then cried, then laughed again. Frances knelt, hands on her waist. "Little blueprint," he whispered to her belly. "We can't wait to meet you." Pregnancy rearranged everything. The calendar. The protected nights. The grocery list that now included pickles and mango at midnight. Janelle slowed down in ways she'd once feared. The slowing didn't erase her. It revealed new rooms inside her, warm and ready. At their 20-week appointment, the ultrasound tech smiled. "Want to know?" They nodded, breath held. "It's a girl." Janelle squeezed Frances's fingers. He wiped a tear with his sleeve and laughed at himself. "Sorry, there's dust in here." Hum," Janelle teased. "Whole lot of dust." They named her in the car, as rain tapped the windshield like applause. "Beatrice," Janelle said. "After my grandma. Wise eyes." "Beatrice Reed," Frances repeated. "Perfect." On the eve of Beatrice's due date, Atlanta's summer hummed outside. The community center, now alive with laughter and herbs, hosted a baby shower that doubled as a block party. There were hand-sewn quilts, onesies with funny slogans, future code switcher, and a gift from the teen who once asked if they'd leave, a tiny hard hat with stickers. That night, Janelle couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony, hand on her belly. Frances joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Scared?" he asked. "A little," she admitted, "but also ready. Like walking into a room I helped design but haven't seen furnished yet." Francis smiled. "Whatever we forget, our mothers will bring. Whatever we drop, this community will catch." She leaned back into him. "We built this, didn't we?" "With a whole lot of help," he said. "And a whole lot of Tuesdays." Her phone buzzed on the table. She didn't move. They watched the city breathe. Then, like the start of a song, Janelle felt a deep, undeniable wave. She inhaled. "Francis." He was already standing, eyes wide, keys in hand, bag by the door like a soldier. "Let's go." Labor was an ocean with tides. Time moved strangely, expanding and contracting like lungs. Janelle gripped Francis's hand, crushed his fingers, apologized, and refused to apologize. "You're doing it," he whispered. "Breathe. I'm right here." Mrs. Reed and Mrs. Parker waited outside, praying on parallel tracks, occasionally comparing notes about hydration and salt. At 3:14 a.m., Beatrice arrived with a cry like a trumpet and a face like an old soul. Janelle sobbed. Francis laughed and cried at once, a sound he would later be embarrassed to remember and also never want to forget. He held Beatrice skin to skin, whispering blues and lullabies. He traced her hairline, kissed her forehead, and promised everything he could name and everything he couldn't yet imagine. Janelle watched, exhausted and luminous. "Hi, family," she whispered. They brought Beatrice home to Haven. The air fryer sat witness. The plants leaned toward the window as if trying to see better. On the wall, a new photo joined the ancestors, a tiny face, eyes closed, future wide. Months layered themselves like soft blankets. Sleep came in shards. Coffee became ritual and religion. Beatrice learned to smile, then to giggle at her father's terrible animal impressions. Janelle learned to code with one hand and hold a baby with the other. Francis learned to draft in the dark, Beatrice's breaths a metronome. At the green housing site, groundbreaking finally happened. Kids held mini shovels. Elders held folding chairs. Francis spoke briefly. "This isn't charity. It's justice with good design." He looked at Janelle and Beatrice in the front row. "And it's for our babies, yours and mine, who deserve clean air and stable rent." At the community center, Janelle's text-based scheduling quietly changed lives. Miss Ruth got her pressure meds refilled without a 6-hour wait. A teen booked mental health counseling with 2 texts and no shame. One evening, after Beatrice fell asleep on Francis's chest, Janelle whispered, "What do we keep when life gets this full?" He thought, "The Tuesdays, and the rule that we tell the truth before our fears do." She kissed him. Deal. On their first anniversary, they returned to the garden where they'd said vows. The lights were strung for another couple now, but the air held their echoes. They stood by the jasmine arch, Beatrice in a sling, cheeks round and curious. Janelle pointed. "Right here is where you promised to plant forgiveness in our floors." "How am I doing?" he asked. She smiled. "We've needed it. And you've planted plenty." He nodded at the sling. "You carried a whole human and still run circles around me." She bumped his shoulder. "We balance." They took a selfie, 3 faces, 1 future. Later, they framed it beside their wedding portrait. In the first photo, they were shiny and new. In the second, they were fuller. Not perfect. Real. That night, they ate takeout on the floor of Haven, boxes open like gifts. Janelle raised a chopstick. "To the life we're designing." Francis clinked his fork. "To the life we're furnishing." Beatrice squealed like a cymbal crash. The city outside hummed its approval. 2 years later, the green housing unit stood bright and breathing, solar panels catching morning sun like open hands. The rooftop gardens fed block parties and after-school cooking classes. The community center's apprenticeship program graduated its first cohort, kids who could repair HVAC units, wire panels, and read blueprints. Janelle's Civic Tech Group published an open-source toolkit to help cities audit algorithms with communities at the table. Her conference talks became clinics where residents, not just experts, held the mic. She hired interns from the neighborhood. Some were girls who once waited at the back of rooms. Now they planned the agenda. Beatrice learned to run down the hall shouting, "Garden!" and to bite cherry tomatoes like they were balloons waiting to pop. Mama Reed danced at the summer festival in a wide-brim hat, water bottle never far. Mrs. Parker confessed at a family dinner, "I thought outdoor weddings were nonsense. I was wrong about a few things. This life of yours, it's beautiful." One evening, as the sun dropped behind Atlanta and the lights clicked on, Francis and Janelle stood on the community center roof, the same place he'd asked the biggest question of his life. Children chased each other between planter boxes. A teen in a hard hat high-fived Francis. Miss Ruth waved her refill reminder text at Janelle and said, "Look at me, baby, no 6 hours." Janelle leaned her head on Francis's shoulder. "We said we would build. We did." He kissed her hair. "And we'll keep building." Below them, their city breathed. In their arms, Beatrice pointed at the skyline like she was claiming it. Haven waited at home, plants leaning, photos layered, air fryer ready. The life they designed wasn't perfect. It was lived in, sturdy, full of Tuesdays and forgiveness, full of people. A journey of a beautiful couple, still in motion, still choosing, still furnishing their forever, one honest day at a time.